Hope and light. Just saying these brings up the images of a spirituality influencer. But no, hope and light are the names of two of the world's most famous diamonds, the Hope Diamond and the Koh-I-Noor, which means mountain of light. Both the diamonds, Hope and Light, come from India. India was the world's only source of diamonds until 1725, when diamond mines were discovered in Brazil, which is why the world's oldest texts on gemology also come from India, and they include sophisticated classification systems for different kinds of stones. In many ancient Indian courts, jewelry rather than clothing was the principal form of adornment and a visible sign of court hierarchy, with strict rules being laid down to establish which rank of courtier could wear which gem and in which setting, historians William Dalrymple and Anita Anand tell us. Although it's impossible to know the definitive journey and history of the Koh-I-Noor, in this video, what I want to do is try to trace the written record of the Koh-I-Noor as far as we can.
We in India think our claim is self-evident. The Iranians say it belongs to them. Taliban has asked for it back. Lahore is now in Pakistan, therefore the Koh-I-Noor belongs to Pakistan.
It represents colonization and bloodshed. Give it back to India. I don't see why an Indian child from India has to travel all the way to the UK to look at it and just pay for it.
India has been pressing the UK to return it. London has been ignoring these calls. They simply rejected India's request. They said the ownership of the Koh-I-Noor was quote-unquote non-negotiable.
The exact origins of the Koh-I-Noor diamond are lost to the mists of time. And one of the reasons it's hard to trace the Koh-I-Noor's history is because of its name. The name Koh-I-Noor was given to it only in the 1700s by Iran's Nader Shah. It is believed the Koh-I-Noor was found in India's alluvial mines around the 12th or the 13th century AD, sifted from the sands of a riverbed in the Kollur mines on the southern bank of the Krishna River in the former Golconda Sultanate, which was then under the Kakatiya dynasty. Up until 1304, the diamond was in the possession of the Rajas of Malwa. How it got there from Golconda? No enough reliable records for that. Then in 1304, it came into the possession of the Sultan of Delhi, Alauddin Khilji, and probably stayed there with the Delhi Sultanate because from 1526, the Mughal ruler Babur mentions the diamond in his writings, Baburnama. Koh-I-Noor came into Babur's possession after he defeated Ibrahim Lodi of the Delhi Sultanate in the Battle of Panipat. He describes the diamond's value equal to half-day production costs of the world. Then we know that in 1628, Babur's great-great-grandson, Shah Jahan, who is famous for having commissioned the Taj Mahal, also commissioned a magnificent gemstone-encrusted throne, the likes of which the world had never seen, the Peacock Throne. It was inspired by the fabled throne of Solomon, the Hebrew king who figures in the histories of Islam, Judaism and Christianity. Shah Jahan's Peacock Throne took 7 years to make, costing 4 times as much as the Taj Mahal. Among the many precious stones that adorned the Peacock Throne were 2 particularly enormous gems, the Timur Ruby, more highly valued by the Mughals because they preferred colored stones, and the Koh-I-Noor diamond, a symbol of regality, wealth and class perhaps. The Mughal Empire was the wealthiest in Asia. Its capital, Delhi, was home to more than 2 million people, more than London and Paris combined. But that kind of prosperity attracts the attention of invaders, and soon enough Persia's Nader Shah invaded Delhi in 1739. By this time, even though the Mughal Empire was rich, it wasn't powerful at all. Nader's invasion is described as a time, quote, when all of India trembled with horror, end quote. The brutal carnage that ensued killed tens of thousands of people and severely impoverished the Mughal wealth. Nader Shah left India with so much gold and so many gems that the looted treasure required 700 elephants, 4,000 camels and 12,000 horses to pull it. Nader took the Peacock Throne as well. He removed the Timur Ruby and the Koh-I-Noor diamond from the throne and wore both on his armband, a symbol of pride perhaps. It was he who gave the diamond its current name, Koh-I-Noor, meaning mountain of light. Less than 10 years after looting the diamond, Nader Shah in 1747 was assassinated by beheading. The diamond now belonged to one of his generals, Ahmad Shah Durrani, who went on to found the Durrani Dynasty in Afghanistan. The Koh-I-Noor remained in Afghanistan for nearly 70 years. It passed between the hands of various rulers in one blood-soaked episode after another, including a king who blinded his own son and a deposed ruler whose shaved head was coronated with molten gold. Yes, that is history, not just fiction. The Koh-I-Noor landed in the hands of Ahmad Shah's grandson, Shah Shuja Durrani. But during the Anglo Sikh Wars, the Lion of Punjab, Maharajah Ranjit Singh, captured Lahore and expelled the Afghans from it. He imprisoned Shah Shuja Durrani, tortured his sons in the blistering heat of Lahore, demanding the handover of the Koh-I-Noor diamond. The torture continued and grew into threats of bringing Shah Shuja's daughters into Ranjit Singh's harem. Things got so desperate that Shah Shuja's wife frustratingly threatened to pound the Koh-I-Noor to dust just so Ranjit Singh could never get his hands on it. Ultimately though, Shah Shuja crumbled, and in 1813 Koh-I-Noor came into the hands of Maharajah Ranjit Singh. He brought the Koh-I-Noor back to India and got 2 replicas of it made out of glass to protect it from thieves. He too wore it on his armband over his white robes. This time the Timur Ruby did not accompany the Koh-I-Noor, and it was just the diamond, as a symbol of its glory and bloody history. Ranjit Singh died in 1836. A civil war followed. Ranjit Singh's first successor was poisoned to death. The next successor died of a smashed skull. The third successor was shot in the chest in an apparent accident. The fate of the Koh-I-Noor was uncertain. By this time, the British imperialists already have their eyes on it. To conquer Ranjit Singh and his vast territory in Punjab, the British needed to yank that symbol of prestige and power from his dead armband as the symbol of their power and superiority. Apparently, Ranjit Singh had requested the diamond to go to a sect of Hindu priests, upon which one anonymous British editorial furiously exclaimed, quote, "The richest, the most costly gem in the known world has been committed to the trust of a profane, idolatrous and mercenary priesthood," end quote. The editorial urged the British East India Company to do whatever they could to keep track of the Koh-I-Noor so that it might ultimately be theirs. After this violent succession period following Ranjit Singh's death, the throne finally came to his young son, Duleep Singh, who was under the care of his mother, Rani Jindal. The treaty following the Anglo Sikh Wars against the British East India Company stipulated that Duleep Singh could remain Maharaja of Punjab under the quote-unquote care of the British. Of course, Maharani Jindal wasn't fooled. To get complete control over the boy king, Duleep Singh was just 10 years old. The general misconduct and habits of intrigue are sufficient to separate her, Maharani Jindal, from her son, end quote, and threw Maharani Jindal into prison away from her son. In 1849, after imprisoning Jindal, the British forced the 10-year-old Duleep to sign a legal document amending the Treaty of Lahore that required Duleep to give away the Koh-I-Noor and all claim to sovereignty. The lonely boy had no other choice. The Koh-I-Noor now belonged to Queen Victoria of England. In April 1850, the Koh-I-Noor was placed in a chest to leave India for England on a ship. The ship was called Medusa, by the way. In the 2-month journey, the entire crew of the ship came down with cholera. On 27th June 1850, Queen Victoria survived an assassination attempt. 3 days later, June 30th, 1850, her Prime Minister was trampled to death by his own horse. That same day, Koh-I-Noor arrived in England. Just as an aside, all of this adds fuel to the belief that the diamond is cursed, which it is widely believed to be. But how do these ideas of cursed diamonds even begin? Richard Curran, Smithsonian's first distinguished scholar and ambassador at large, is perhaps right when he says, "When the powerful take things from the less powerful, the powerless don't have much to do except curse the powerful." And now back to the main video. It was displayed at the 1851 Great Exposition in London, only for the British public to be dismayed at how simple the Koh-I-Noor looked. The Times wrote, quote, "Many people find a difficulty in bringing themselves to believe from its external appearance that it is anything but a piece of common glass." End quote. Given its disappointing reception, Prince Albert, Queen Victoria's husband, had the stone recut and polished. It was reduced to 60% of its original size. Fun fact, the man who made the first cut into the Koh-I-Noor died of a stroke within weeks. The Koh-I-Noor diamond became part of the British crown jewels. Queen Victoria is said to have stated in her will that the Koh-I-Noor should only be worn by a female. It passed from Victoria to the crown of Queen Alexandra, the wife of Edward VI, Victoria's eldest son, and then to Queen Mary, the wife of George V, grandson of Victoria. It came to the crown of the Queen Mother, wife of George VI, and mother of Queen Elizabeth, and then of course to Queen Elizabeth. But the main question remains, to whom does the Koh-I-Noor rightfully belong? There have been debates, and I suspect they won't stop anytime soon, about returning the diamond to India. I want to say that's where it belongs, but I'm afraid the answer, to whom does the Koh-I-Noor rightfully belong, is not that simple. Does the Koh-I-Noor belong to the one who originally found it on the riverbed back in the 12th century? Or does it belong to the Kakatiya dynasty who ruled over that region at the time? Does it belong to the people of the Golconda region? Or does it belong to its last owner, Maharajah Duleep Singh? But since he is dead, does it belong to his descendants? There are no known descendants of the family. So does it belong to his subjects, which raises the main and very painful and difficult question, to whom do cultural artifacts belong? Do they belong to the king, or do they belong to his subjects? Do they belong to a government or to their last owner? The Sikh Empire no longer exists, and Punjab is now divided between two countries, India and Pakistan. So should the Koh-I-Noor be divided by cutting it up? Then it won't be the Koh-I-Noor anymore. The rulers who once owned these gemstones headed nations that no longer exist. Does the Koh-I-Noor belong to India? But India did not even exist as one country before 1947. Wherever it stays and ultimately ends up, it should stay in a museum as a symbol of human nature, our hunger for ever more, pride, our imperialism and brutality. And as long as it stays in England, I'm afraid it's a symbol of imperialism.